Well, we have a lot to cover tonight. Um, so we'll start on time. Um, by the way, Chad, your directions were perfect um, for, and I was shocked at how easy it was, not only to get into the Cannon building, but when I walked by AOC's, I was there a little early, so I was walking through the whole. I went by AOC's door, had hundreds of post-its on it. It was amazing.
Wow.
Yeah, all
Okay.
these little handwritten messages. The only one in the entire building. I went down to the basement. I went up, so um,
Wow. Well, so you really, yeah. I mean, I didn't get lost in that building. I've been lost elsewhere, of course. But yeah, I've been in there a few times. It's nice, light kind of hallways, and
well, the
but
amazing thing, I mean, I've been to DC so many times and I never was to the Capitol. So,
yeah. Well,
yeah.
it's because we always thought Congress was completely useless, and now they may still be useless, but at least it's kind of entertaining. And I went to the UAP hearing. I don't know anything about UAPs really, but I was curious, and it was fun. I mean, except that I had to fight to get in there. A word of advice: if you like contact some communications director in advance for one of these congresspersons and say, I would like a media spot in the chamber, please, and I represent this publication. They'll respond and say, yeah, sure, fine. I mean, assuming that they're not already filled up. And when you go in, there's a little sign on one of the tables off to the side that has the name of your publication. That's where you're supposed to sit. So I was JFK Facts. And then I show up and there's already a huge line. I mean, the thing is mobbed. So I go to the front and I say, I've got a media spot. And they said, well, you have to have a congressional, whatever it is. Like you have to have a congressional credentials, ID. Otherwise, you have to get in line with everybody else. And of course, I raised hell because I was going to end up in an overflow room. And eventually, somehow, I managed to get past the queue and in through the front. But it was a close call. And
Who would you go through to get your pass?
Well, there's just these people, I don't know, they sit there in a booth, and they're there at the entrance to the hallway that leads to these rooms, these kind of hearing chambers. I mean, this particular hearing chamber is really organized in a very silly way because I don't know if you probably saw anyone who watched it saw the footage. The whole seating area for attendees and witnesses was completely packed. Okay, so
Mm.
there were actually people in an overflow room somewhere. The committee, the task force, sits up at the top two rows
Right.
and there's like I don't know 3 rows that are completely empty, and it's a huge section of the room that it takes up. I mean, it's complete waste of space, and no one's allowed in there. So people are just crammed into this section, and it was really packed. But but
Anyway,
anyway, I
um,
thought it was fun. I always thought there was something to Roswell, and that was the first thing. So.
yeah, yeah. So as the announcement indicated, and as people that have been listening the last 2 weeks know, I met with Representative Luna yesterday, and it was a surreal experience because 5 minutes after I went into the office, the news broke about Charlie Kirk being shot. And it was there was a Fox News team there when I got there, and then they left. They were actually interviewing her about the JFK records because this is a Fox News Nation segment. And the idea that I'm there talking about 1960s political violence, and then while we're talking, this thing happens. I mean, it was a surreal experience. And then what the other thing that was really interesting was all the young staff. I didn't know much about Charlie Kirk. I knew who he was, but I didn't know much about him. I mean, I knew he had this $100 million organization, whatever, but I got the sense that he was to this generation like what RFK was to us in terms of inspiring them to be part of a political movement. And the emotions were really raw. Um, and so, and she was, I was talking to her, and then she actually had I had an agenda I brought in, and she started with her own agenda. She gave me an update on all the things that they were doing. But she had to keep breaking, to check the news. So there was some really interesting news that she shared with me. In no particular order, um, she told me that she's made arrangements to get the transcripts from the William Manchester interviews with Bobby Kennedy and Jackie. Not the tapes, but the transcripts, which, we've been for years. I mean, they're subject to an agreement where they won't be released till 2067. So we're not going to hear the tapes, but we're going to get the transcripts, which I think is a major, major development. She also said that she's getting the William Harvey um, transit records. Now, she was really intrigued, Chad, when I said to her there was a newly discovered document about Harvey um, being getting a clearance, a security clearance from the FAA on April 10th, 1963. And she said, they always figure out ways to hide these people in different places. So she wanted more information about that. Um, and she said, shoot, I'm trying to think other things, Chad. Uh,
You said that somehow uh, she had managed to get a hold of these uh, the deed and trust stuff, the transcripts, which I was really surprised about. But didn't you say that that the JM Wave,
yeah, she was
Miami?
talking about Jamwave, but it wasn't clear to me if she was talking about the Donald Heath stuff or whether it's different Jamwave records. It's probably the stuff that you guys asked for. She says to me, NBC told her that they cannot find the original Dargnell and Wegman films,
Right.
which she said that's just not believable. She said, I told them to try harder. The idea that a news organization would lose footage involving the assassination of a president doesn't really get past the red face test. And I said, well, that sounds like something that we may need to get a subpoena for. And she says, I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, I mean, she mentioned a subpoena in this hearing. I can't remember because it was the name of some guy, and I didn't recognize him. He might have been the head of AARO, Arrow, which is a division of the Pentagon. But but it got a huge applause, and she's always said we don't have subpoena power. It has to come from the committee, so it has to
From
come from
Comer,
committee
yeah,
level.
right.
But
And
but she's speaking now much more as if it's possible.
yeah,
So
well,
I,
she was saying that, look, I asked nicely. They haven't been responsive. I'm going to ask them to try harder, and it might be something we're subpoena. And then she said, I'm also getting the Air Force tapes, Air Force One.
oh, that's right, the Air Force One thing. That really,
And
yeah.
Chad, I thought that one of the first, like, where did you find this? Because I thought the only existing Air Force tape was like, she said, when getting the complete Air Force tape, Air Force One tape. Now, it's possible that she doesn't know that it's not complete. Um, but that would be a real find. Her chief of staff is really into this. William Kristen.
Mr. Christian, yes, Bill Christian.
Yes, yes. I guess he's a Western Texas boy.
Yeah.
And he is really into this. He was asking me about the Mauser versus Mark, Carcano and some other stuff, but he is really, really into this. And um, so those were,
He's good. He's a good guy. I met
yeah,
him a few times. He's
yeah.
been helpful.
And I think she said that that she's getting the Sheridan files.
Well, that would really also be because I'm starting to think that that and the Jackie and Bobby things might be the most revelatory, but we'll see. Bill Harvey travel records is way up there. So, I mean, it's all good news because, with other things, Epstein, UAPs taking over, it's feeling, it was starting to feel a bit grim, but I mean, it is still going on. It's just a bit slow. I personally thought that the article that Jeff published on Arminio Diaz was fantastic a couple of weeks ago. I mean, I thought it
I
was
mentioned Alito. So I came in there with a list of documents. I had surveyed people, and I broke it down into documents, witnesses, and forensic tests. And one of the 201 files I asked for was for Elidio Valley.
right.
They didn't know who he was, so I gave him the background on him.
Yeah,
But no, she's now the task force is extended through the end of the year. Um, and they have really limited staff, so I don't know when they're gonna start. They don't know when they're gonna start writing a report. They're gonna write a report, and so they definitely. Bill said, we should definitely have recommendations. I did indicate to them that um, one of the things we need to do on a sustainability basis is that once the task force goes away, we need to create a process with the way that NARA interacts with researchers, so that if you contact NARA and there's not a record in the collection, that instead of NARA telling the researcher go use FOIA, that the process should be that NARA contacts the agency and says, where are these records? Because the statute was passed, the legislative findings say the reason they're passing the statute was because FOIA didn't work.
right.
So, and then there's a whole bunch of forensic tests that uh, from digitizing fingerprints to doing tool mark analysis using 3D technology. Today, people were asking me about digitizing X-rays, but they don't have any funds, so they're going to have to. That probably something like NIST is going to have to do.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I have my mission is to now prioritize the additional documents that I talked about yesterday, which I'm supposed to give them tomorrow. And then, um, she's working on the Marcello thing as well. And
Hmm.
I gave her a whole bunch of material. It turns out the ARB had seen some of the Marcello Camtech sting operation files, but not all of them. And then what's in the collection is not the complete list of documents, and certainly the sealed recordings aren't there. So we're going to be trying to get those as well. So
One
uh,
of the things that came to mind, and I for some reason I kept forgetting it, and I think it's kind of important while it's still possible. Because at the end of the day, we're talking about for a lot of this stuff, it's just trying to get it on the congressional record, into the congressional record for posterity.
yes.
It's a bit like Doug Horn. It's not like he said anything that, was bombshell to us because we'd already heard it, but he'd never gotten it onto the congressional record. But one thing is, Thomas Noguchi is 98 years old. And obviously he could never come to Washington, but he could submit a statement that, in accordance with his book, he's never retracted it, that he does not he does not conclude that Sirhan Sirhan killed Bobby Kennedy. This is something I don't think most of them know about. They don't know about this stuff, these members of Congress. And that kind of statement would be worth having, I think, for the record. They're always entering documents into the record in these hearings. You know what I mean? And that's another record that could be entered in because I don't know if they're ever going to have any hearing on Bobby Kennedy. I think that, Lisa Pease is just allergic to the whole thing because of
Well, it's interesting. Uh, Bill told me that Bobby had asked the task force to have Jim DiEugenio be the lead on that that matter.
yeah.
And when I contacted Jim this morning, he said he wasn't aware of that. And
Oh, really?
he thought that perhaps Lisa would be the right person. And I said, well, you know, have you talked to Bobby? He says, no, Bobby hasn't talked to me. So I'm going to circle back with Bill, and I don't know whether they need to get word back to Bobby or does Jim need to be sort of like a figurehead and let him delegate it to Lisa. I'm not particularly comfortable with Lisa.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just concerned that she'll use it, for an opportunity to make a political speech and it'll sort of sully the whole thing, which is really too bad. But I just have a feeling she's very emotional, and I think she might do
Yeah,
that. But she is kind of probably has the most detailed understanding. Jim DiEugenio would be pretty much good enough. I mean, he's he knows a lot of the details of that case as well. But yeah, I just want to point out that, and I wrote the article that I published last night about the UAP hearing. Jasmine Crockett is now the ranking member of the task force, which doesn't really bode terribly well for
really.
yeah,
So what's his name
because
left?
Garcia got bumped up because Jerry Connolly died, and Garcia became the ranking member of the committee.
Uh,
And I guess now he's too important for the task force. So I think it was a seniority thing. I think maybe Jasmine Crockett might be the longest serving Democrat, or maybe she was the only one available. I find it very suspect because she was a late addition.
well,
And
she's
she was
getting
really,
her district is getting eliminated, so
oh, it is?
you'll have to figure out a different district to run for.
Well,
Um,
her district includes Dealey Plaza, and that needs to be better kept. I mean, it's not preserved very nicely. It's not maintained very well, and there was some proposal to completely overhaul it and turn it into some kind of
yes, yes.
amusement park. But
Well, that was a
but
study. Somebody
but,
commissioned a
but
study.
what I thought was interesting was they had a minority witness, and the guy was more or less on board. He was sympathetic to these UAP witnesses. He was not, dismissing them or anything. He said, whistleblowers go through a lot of mental and emotional trauma in addition to legal and professional problems. Uh, and she asked him, can you give examples of the most egregious case of the U.S. government using the national security excuse for overclassification? And this guy gave the example of 9/11. And of course, 9/11 was a massive intelligence failure, certainly. But his point was the agencies like CIA and FBI weren't sharing information.
Right.
That was his problem. But certainly, and when she was in the lead up to her question, she said, we know from the assassinations of MLK and Malcolm X, as well as COINTELPRO and torture programs that CIA. Well, you're going to mention those two, and you're not going to mention JFK. Seems because I mean JFK researchers have had to deal with this national security malarkey for decades, longer than anything.
Well,
I mean that has been
this is the minority. This is the minority witness.
well, the minority witness answered the question and said it was 9/11, but she
Right.
was
So
the
that's
one in asking the question. She was the one. She said, she gave only the examples of MLK and Malcolm X in the 60s. Well, I mean, JFK, the primary thing that's been so painful is this whole national security thing. And now we know from tens of thousands of pages being released in full in this year that was bogus. I mean, that was always bogus, at least as far as the JFK collection was concerned. But we can pretty much infer that for the documents that they never turned over to the archives, the same thing applies, right?
Oh,
These
by the
things.
way, so she also told me that they've discovered another batch of RFK records that the government has never officially acknowledged.
Wow.
I don't know what they are because then she had to leave the room to find out what's going on with Charlie. So it was a kind of this weird conversation, keep going back and forth, um and we also know that there was a neurological study that was done that would have been able to just show the size of the bullets. That's missing from the collection. But the next hearing is going to be MLK.
Oh, okay.
Um, and they asked me for people, and I think I made some recommendations. I think Stu Wexler is probably going to be one of the people invited to speak. He's
there's a guy, I haven't read his book, but there's a guy who wrote a book called The Deep State Assassination of Martin Luther King, and his last name is Emerson, I think. Uh, Emison, I think it is. And I've heard him interviewed. He's very Southern. I think he might be from Tennessee, actually. But he apparently is one of the leading experts on all of the anomalies and all of the
Hmm.
strange
Well,
things
uh,
surrounding that assassination.
maybe I'll ask Stu if he knows that person. But it's curious that that's the next one. I'm not sure if maybe that's because of who got just elevated to be the ranking member.
It could be. It could
Yeah.
be Crockett. She was much she wasn't great, but she was a lot better than she was in our first JFK
Huh.
hearing. I mean, that was just appalling. I mean, you know that if Jeff, who's a really left Democrat, gets pissed off at one of them, you know that and she was really it was not good what she did at
I
all.
forgot if I mentioned that while Fox was there, they were filming. I said, if Earl Warren had the same commitment to the truth that Representative Luna does, we would not be here today.
Right, right. That's right. Yeah, I mean, frankly, I don't know how, I don't know how brave Luna is, but she's certainly bold. I mean, she's an Air Force veteran and everything. Burleson said, when he gave a little grandstand for the UAP witnesses and said, "Believe me, we're going to be scrappy, and nobody is scrappier than Representative Luna. I wouldn't want to scrap with her. It got a laugh. I think she probably is quite insistent. I
She,
think she's
she's
pretty
tough, and
determined.
her husband was there also. I got to meet him.
Oh, right, yeah,
The weird thing was, I have a neighbor who's a part-time neighbor. He lives mainly in Florida. When I told him I was going to be meeting Luna, he says, "Oh, I know her. I have a mutual friend with her husband." So,
Mm,
so I told her that. Anyway, I think Chad, that is, and so what else am I tapes? I did ask to have uh, for forensic tests to have the DNA redone on the bullet fragments to see if it's JFK or Connolly. The rifling fingerprints. I did not know this. Did you know that there was an unidentified fingerprint on the sixth floor windowsill?
unidentified as opposed to the
Unidentified.
as
On
opposed to the
Oswald,
ones.
it wasn't any of the police. It wasn't any of the employees.
And it
Maybe
wasn't, it was, it's, you're not talking about the Mac Wallace one, are you?
no, 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 no. And maybe Joe knows about this, but apparently there's uh how but there's this fingerprint that is on the windshield, the sixth floor windowsill, and it's never been identified. And then there's the paper bag that was found in the dead letter section of the Irving post office that had been addressed to Oswald using a fake address, and it was discovered after the assassination. And it was a paper bag 18 inches long. That would have been suitable for a rifle, like as if someone was setting him up by mailing him a paper bag.
Right.
Um, so those are the kind of things, further trying to get enhancements on the fingerprints and that sort of stuff. So those are probably going to have to be done. If they do those, they'll have to be done after the task force. I don't think they have the bandwidth to do
No.
that. But
I mean,
I was very, very impressed with her chief of staff, the commitment they have to the process to get this stuff out.
you know,
Um, and if there's records that exist, um, I think that they'll find them. Now, I have a question for the collective. Um, in terms of, whenever I tell Luna about something, she asks, where is it so I can find it, right? And in the process of trying to identify some of the Marcelo Camtex stuff, which was in the field offices, I learned that the FBI has a centralized office in Virginia. And what I don't know is if all of those field office files have they all been transferred to the centralized office now? Like, or is is this like supposedly when you look on the website, it looks like all of their files are now in this one location. And I don't know if that's just the files that were from the headquarters, or is it everything that was sent from everything that was in the field office is now in one location? I don't know if anyone knows, has information about that. If you do, that would be good to know because, again, I always, oh, and the RFK papers, they're at the National Declassification Center. So she's going to be, and they were supposed to be going on the mandatory declassification review, but that's been going on for years. So she's
So
going to try.
The Sheridan papers are still at NBC, right?
Yes, yes. And then the RFK papers are the ones that he took from the White House, right after the
Oh, see, I
assassination.
was always confused about that. I always thought they were the same thing, but they're
No,
not.
no, no.
So he took so Sheridan took something from the JFK library and stashed it at NBC, right?
Yeah,
And RFK took something from the White House and stashed it where?
so it was part of his personal papers, and then they were deposited. So he basically took stuff, or he had Mrs. Lincoln. They took papers from the safe in the Oval Office that, and they were presumably about Cuba, and but there may have been personal stuff in there, and they've been inventoried by the JFK Library, but they were never released. And
Right,
the ARB was trying to get those released. Um, and we're negotiating with the RFK committee um, while, but then it ran out of time. Sheridan had done a private investigation for Bobby, and then that kind of got segued into Garrison, and he went down and did work so allegedly for NBC, but it was, I think, a kind of a cover operation to help Bobby determine whether Garrison was on to something or not. And those papers were deposited in the JFK library. And when the ARB asked for them, um, the they were sent to NBC. And then the ARB sued. In the interim, he dies, and then the ARB sues the estate to get those papers, and NBC intervenes and asserts the reporter's privilege. And then the ARB goes out of business. So the case was never decided, and NBC's held those papers all this time.
right.
Um,
I'm just gonna
Now, people have
mention
asked
one
about
thing.
the
I think
tax.
people, if people want to ask questions and stuff, they should. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't want to hog it, but I do want to mention one thing.
Well,
I,
wait. I want to answer one. So people have been asking mentioning in the chat about the tax records, and the tax records are exempt under the law as it now exists. In other words, unless Marina Oswald, for example, consents to having the records released, tax records released, or if Ruth Payne's offspring consent, that's one thing. But if they don't consent, we can't. You can't get them unless the law is changed. And that's something we may have to consider, maybe as part of recommendations. Maybe the Schweikert bill would have overruled that if the Schweikert bill had been passed.
yeah, yeah, I know.
Right.
I
But
know.
anyway, I just wanted to answer it because several people asked that. What were you going to say now?
I was just going to say, I mean, you may remember a couple of weeks back, I co-authored a piece with Bill Simpich about FBI informants who had contact with Oswald, whose identities have never been revealed. And there's a piece coming out in a couple of days that he and I, it's like a sequel. And we're going to offer some very educated speculation on who the main informant at the CPUSA and the worker was
Oh,
but the thing is, when the redactions come off of these like documents that have FBI informants, it just reveals an informant number. It's like, you know, all this time, and then they remove redactions. It's like, great, it's 3903, whatever,
right,
and
right,
it's like
right,
still don't know who that is. Now, first of all, these people are all dead. Second of all, the Cold War ended, what? How long is it now? 40 years ago or something? And, so what? They were in the Communist Party. They were sources for the FBI, and, we won the Cold War. So there's no national security reason for that, and there's no reason really to protect their identities, to protect their families. I mean, who's going to argue with it? So that's something, and of course, Cash Patel has done absolutely nothing about this so far. I don't know how you get in there and get their attention, but that is something I think that would be very interesting. because there's
Oh,
still
okay. Yeah. So let me just, from the statute perspective, um, informants and undercover people, they can be protected if there's an imminent threat to their health,
right,
to their life. And what the FBI and the CI have been doing is they've been using a 100-year rule, that they don't lift the name of the person if they either till they're dead, or if they don't know if the person is alive, they then take the birth date and add 100 years to it.
right,
So when they just have unredacted the T number, whatever the number is, that's not really complying with the statute.
right,
They should be identifying the person's name. Now, what Pompeo was telling the president in 2017, 2018 was, look, if we release these names, we promise these people confidentiality. And it's going to interfere with our ability to get new undercover agents, because if we make a promise of confidentiality, they would see that we broke it, albeit 60 years later. But that was the excuse that he gave Trump in 2017 and 2018. And I think the FBI still feels that a lot of the mafia informants, for example, that they were now these people, the mafia they were reporting on is gone,
right.
right?
Yeah.
Um, William Seymour is still alive.
Yeah, I didn't know that. That's interesting. William Seymour. He wasn't he one of the guys that at the FBI, like the Hoover said, was one of the three guys that came to Sylvia Odio's house. I don't actually think he was, but that's what the FBI said. And I saw Larry Hancock was here earlier, and he seems to have gone,
Oh,
unfortunately.
really?
I think so, yeah. He
Oh.
was there. He was there in the beginning. I really hoped that he would stay, but anyway, I think he knows all about that stuff. I always wondered. I always thought that Herminio Diaz might have been one of the guys with the Oswald character, but
So, Chad, so the Arminio Diaz 201 file had lots of blanks in it.
yeah, lots of stuff that was missing. Lots of pages were missing. And in fact, I got kind of crestfallen because I'm the one who went and got it from Luna's office. And I was excited to look through it, but there were no documents in the index dating between November 8th and 1963 and January 23rd, 1964. Now, that seems to me a very conspicuous gap. However, the index of the 201 file is the index that was created for the 201 file, and I can't believe maybe they took stuff out and then made a new index or something. But when I was talking to Jeff about it, I said, that FBI informant report from Miami from November 26, 1963, 4 days after the assassination, where a very credible Cuban exile informant whose identity was revealed, but it was revealed in a kind of inadvertent way. It's like they didn't intentionally reveal it, but it was a classic case of David Boylan working it out the way Bill Simpich does by looking at different records and saying it has to be that person. So it was that person. And he said that at that time that Herminio Diaz is or was working for the CIA. Now, there wasn't any detail about what he was doing for the CIA, but I felt like that should be in the 201 file because there are lots of other FBI documents in his 201 file, but that one was not there.
Now,
And
have you
so that
asked?
makes me very suspicious about the whole Armenia Diaz. But Jeff made really great sense of this file. And if anyone hasn't read that article, it's really, really sort of it's very insightful, very comprehensive. It's not the type it's complex, but it's not the type of thing that MSM would have any patience for because
Right.
it's a little hard to understand. But the implications of what's in there are really quite serious, whether or not Arminio Diaz participated in the assassination. It's still very interesting.
Did you follow up with Luna and say why are these pages missing?
I did actually follow up with Bill Christian by email, and then I said I was going to call him, and I didn't.
Okay.
I should have. I said I was going to call him next week. I don't think he was, hanging by the telephone waiting
Well, if
for
you
me to
want me,
call or anything. But I explained as briefly as I could what I thought, the problem was in the interests of pursuing more pages. But to be honest, I'm not sure that the pages in question would tell us anything because of that gap. So the gaps in the documents that are there in documents that are pre-November 8th, November 8th and previous, and January 23rd and post. I mean, unless the CIA refers to, oh yeah, and that's the guy we had did
Wait a
that
second.
job in
So,
Dealey
but
Plaza.
is
I
there, so you're saying that there's all these white page, there's all these blanked out pages, right? Or missing pages?
Well, there's a combination of things. There are illegible pages, there are blank pages, and there are missing pages. So
Okay.
there's a combination of all three. And the file itself is 97 pages as is. Many of those are illegible, some are blank or just have a handwritten
And
number
and
on
you
them.
and why do you know that those missing pages are not for the relevant period that we're looking for?
Because there's an index at the very first page. You can actually you can I think the document has been uploaded to the JFK fax thing. You can go in and you can actually look at the whole PDF. Like when we get documents, they're not online, so we put it there. And you'll see, I mean, the index dates the documents, and I mean, I the point of the main point of the article is this. When Bill Harvey was removed from the business of vetting assassins. Okay, he was still on ZR Rifle for a while, I think, even after they sent him to Rome. But he was removed from these other things. So Task Force W got subsumed in the
Yeah, they
SAS.
moved the task force to a different place.
Right, it became subjugated to Desmond Fitzgerald's special affairs staff or whatever. And he had Staff D as well. He had Staff D, he had Task Force W, which he named himself, and he had ZR Rifle. Well, he carried on with ZR Rifle for a while, and I can't remember when. I mean, he was still doing that, but that was not about vetting assassins, if I'm not mistaken. But anyway, I don't remember the exact details. But the point is, when Bill Harvey was taken off that because he was sent to Rome, the person who took over the vetting of assassins was James Angleton.
Yeah.
Okay, so James Angleton vetted Herminio Diaz and showed a lot of interest in him. They polygraphed him twice, and I think they had a total of like 5 interviews with him, including the polygraphs. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
they were definitely interested in this guy. And then there's a thing from Ted Shackley that I think is addressed to Sheffield Edwards or it might be Desmond Fitzgerald saying, "We have no plans to have further contact with this person at this time."
Well, let me
Because
ask you,
and
so
that's the sign off. That's the last thing. I think that's the November 8th thing.
how do we have illegible documents nowadays? I mean, is it the original was too light that when then they scanned it, it was, I mean,
I,
how do
I
you have an illegible document?
I don't know. If you go in online, you can find it on Mary Farrell. The Warren Report volumes, like let's say for example, the subscription that Oswald, the record of Oswald's subscription to the Worker newspaper is very faint. But the original that they were supplied, which is commission document whatever, which is available elsewhere, is totally clear and legible. No, why would the Warren Commission get a very clear copy and then publish a really faint one? You know what I mean? It doesn't. I don't know why this happens, and I don't know what is involved in actually going and I can't believe some CIA person is sitting down, leafing through this and saying, "Well, we're not going to give them a clear version of this page." I mean, really? I mean, it's possible, I guess, but
I mean, unless the thing is like so faded that it was so poorly stored that the ink is faded or something, I just find it hard. Joseph,
it's
uh,
always
so Joe, what are you saying about Weisberg and illegible ink?
When Weisberg would sue for documents, they would give him illegible documents, very degraded, a, a copy of a Xerox copy of a copy of a Xerox copy of a copy of a Xerox copy.
yeah,
Yeah, that
yeah,
happened all the time.
and
But
I might add to that, by the way, that I got picked up 2 copies and they were both Xerox copies. I mean, the whole thing is a photocopy. There's nothing original there. It's not like going into the archives and handling the original document. So we have a
so
photocopy.
I guess my question is, why don't we ask Luna to say, can you get a better copy? We should be able to get better copies if they exist.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I got a little discouraged when I saw the gap in the index of the dates of the
Hmm.
documents that are in the 201 file. And I thought, do I really want to bother them about this when there's all these other stuff,
Okay.
other things we need? But I should follow up with him because he's a very accessible and personable guy, and he, probably would try to, um, oblige.
Oh, he's very motivated.
Yeah.
I mean, and I think he's a LBJ guy did it.
Oh, well, yeah. Actually, he expressed a very curious opinion to me that I'd never heard anywhere else, but I thought it was interesting, and I wondered whether he'd seen Max Good's documentary. But he told me that he thought Ruth Paine must have been a Soviet agent. And I thought, well, I mean, I guess it's it's possible, but I never really thought about it, and I didn't talk to him long enough to ask him where he got that idea. But
Hmm. Well, we had a discussion. He's very.
yeah,
I think Roger Stone uh, convinced him that LBJ was, you know, was instrumental behind the assassination.
well, I'm
Uh,
I'm I am one of the people who thinks that LBJ is not above suspicion. Just because you get to be president doesn't mean that you're
well,
suddenly.
again, I think if LBJ wanted to do something, he would make sure he had there were no fingerprints of his on it, so that like Marcello or someone that you know would be giving him money, the money could be sent someplace else. Someone else would like it wouldn't be one of his guys involved that it could be traced back to him. He would pick.
Well, but right, but it works both ways. I mean, let's just suppose that somebody knows about this hit. Like, let's say it's Carlos Marcello. Somebody knows about it in advance, or maybe someone who's participating. They would want him to know ahead of time and to make sure that you know that that he knew that they knew. In other words, he's going to become president, and he knows that there are people who know that he knew about it in advance. You see what I mean? It becomes this horrible political game.
Yeah, it could
And
be.
I and I and I think I still think he probably had some kind of advance notice of it, and somebody tipped him off. The way he behaved in the immediate aftermath, it's just my impression, and I'm perfectly okay with other people not saying there's not enough there, and that's fine. It's a little bit like people who get really worked up about this whole Zapruder film thing. What if it was altered? I mean, it still looks like JFK was hit from the front. I mean, I'm okay with it may have been altered, but some people get really exercised about it. I just, I don't
Well,
think.
so we know, the mafia specialized in blackmail, right? As did
Right,
the KGB and the CIA, right?
right,
So it's quite possible that someone would know how to do that. I mean, and he could have had what I would call guilty knowledge. Maybe he heard something and dismissed it, and then
right,
it happened, right? So there's
right.
all kinds of explanations, but so far no one's got their hands up.
Yeah,
So
I mean, chime in anybody.
yeah, otherwise, Chad's going to start talking about UAPs.
Can I
Yeah,
ask a question?
Yeah,
absolutely.
My name's Dave LeVar. I'm a retired lawyer from Pittsburgh. Um, I had the honor.
lawyers really do we really ever really retire?
No, we don't. We don't. We really don't. I'm anyway. I My family grew up with Cyril Weck on the bluff where Duquesne University is located.
Ah,
Cyril's parents had a grocery store, and I worked for Cyril for 2 summers at the morgue when he was coroner.
really?
Yes. And when I went to Georgetown from 72 to 76, Cyril arranged for me to be an intern with the Committee to Investigate Assassinations, Bernard Fensterwald.
Wow. So do you know Bob on our call here?
I
Bob
don't.
who?
My name is Bob Saltzman. I was on the committee to investigate assassinations from 1970, way past Bud's death. I don't remember your name or meeting you, but we may have.
Well, I worked in Bud's law office, uh,
Wow.
which
Okay.
was right next to the Christian Science building in
Yeah.
Washington. And I would work in his library, and then he had a kind of a weird guy, a Bob guy. It wasn't Bob Saltzman. It was another guy.
Well, there was Bob Smith.
Bob Smith. That's the guy. And he had an office in a broken down part of town where he had all the files. And then I think Bob Smith had a falling out with Bud, but I had left by that time.
Hold on a second. Bob, what is this thing that just came up? Elijah Rivera is sharing JFK Facts podcast, uh, Facts podcast recording that's tonight. What's going on? Do you know why this came up?
I don't know what this means.
Bob, are you there?
Yeah, I am. I am.
Oh, there it goes.
Thank you, Mr. Rivera. Just before you share content, we'd like you to just clear it. Well, we see your hand raised, and Larry will get to you in a second. So we'd appreciate it if you'd just be a little patient so we can deal with the current conversation.
Can I just finish up?
Yeah, Dave.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Anyway, I have two questions. First of all, real quick on RFK, why would the federal government have had any large files on that assassination? There was no jurisdiction of the federal government in that case, was there?
So, from what I understand, there is a State Department. Well, first of all, the FBI was doing some investigation. The FBI was investigating possible foreign nation involvement.
Okay.
And I just learned today from somebody that there may be that there should be, if the FBI was doing that, the CIA probably was doing that. And then I don't know what the precise grounds were, but the FBI did open a file on RFK, maybe in connection with that.
Okay.
But
that
anyway,
makes sense.
That's why there's an FBI.
Steerhand being an immigrant, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, this concern that somehow there was a foreign involvement here.
Gotcha. My last question, and I have many, but this is the one I was wondering. My outline of what has happened was that the CIA people, Alan Dulles, decided to make the hit on Kennedy and his group, and they farmed it out to the mafia. So I kind of have a pretty good taxonomy about that situation. But has anyone ever done any retro investigation after the Garrison file to see if Clay Shaw was ever involved in anything, or whether his name pops up in any other federal documents?
I don't know about that. I do know I have strong, because of my interest in Marcello, I have very strong suspicions about Garrison. And I think he diverted the investigation away from Marcello. I don't know how he came up with,
Clay Shaw.
But I think that there's enough questions there that Garrison was getting freebies to go to Las Vegas and some other stuff. So I think that, like every politician in that town, he was bought.
Yeah.
And even Hoover, when they started circling around Marcello, Hoover called off the dogs on December 18th, I think, on the field office.
Right.
So I no longer, I don't hold Garrison in high esteem anymore.
Okay, that's interesting.
That's just I don't know how he came up with Clay Shaw. I don't know the details. But I mean, look, as a fellow lawyer, be happy to offline if you have, questions, and
yeah, I'll send you guys emails and everything. I just subscribed
and if you got
to the
free
group.
time, we could always use a little help on the legal side.
I'm here for you. One last thing. My mother said when I was about 25, 26, why don't you ever believe anything the way it's represented? Why do you always think there's something weird going on? And I told her, Mom, a United States president was shot in a major American city at high noon in front of the whole world. And today, no one has answered to that crime. And that's why I'm with you guys tonight.
Well, also, as a lawyer, we're trained to be skeptical,
That's right.
right? Right?
That's
We
right.
take in evidence skeptically, and so, but the question is, before you decided to pursue law, were you, you know,
Oh,
uh,
I was a JFK bug all the time since I was in the fourth grade. I think he was killed in '63. I think I was in the fourth grade at that time. But I've always wanted to be a lawyer, even in the fourth grade. So it worked out pretty well.
so did you talk to Cyril at all about his theories? And
Uh,
because Cyril didn't seem to believe, he doesn't believe in a frontal wound. He doesn't believe in a single bullet theory, but he does believe in a frontal head wound.
right,
And whenever people would say about the neck wound, he said, "Well, show me where the bullet went."
right, right.
Do you have any conversations with him about?
Well, I know he was very skeptical about the single bullet commission document 399,
Mhm.
but I think Cyril believed Cyril was a good paranoid like myself. I think he I think he believed that the same kind of taxonomy that I offered, that there was a globalist, Alan Dulles motivated orchestration with using mob guys and the Miami boys, um, Frank Sturgis and crowd to be the legwork. So, but as to the actual evidence, I just remember him very abusive on 399, the single bullet theory.
Yeah. Okay. Well, send me an email and
I
we can
will.
keep talking. So,
Before we move on, Dave, it occurs to me that I worked in the M Street office for the CTIA, not in Bud's legal office, because that's where we moved almost all the documents to. So maybe
Yeah.
that's why we didn't cross paths.
Yeah.
And,
I was here like 73, 74 for maybe a semester and a half.
okay.
And my work was with Bob Smith. And again, he had a office in an apartment house on 14th Street. That's now it's coming back to me.
Oh,
And it was in the bad part of 14th Street.
okay. And just if you join us in the future, if you could learn how to use the raise hand methodology to get in line to speak, that would be helpful to all the other speakers.
I'm
So
sorry. I
that's
will.
okay. This is not an admonition. It's just a
Yeah.
suggestion, if you're new to it.
And I'm going to try to hook up my camera so you can see that I'm a real person and not a robot.
uh, is there a new capacity limit on the JFK Fact Zoom meeting? I could not get there earlier because it was capacity. Really?
Oh, Mo,
I've heard there was a 100 participant limit before. I thought that was lifted.
that's right. This happened a year ago, and I told Jefferson to buy the extra license, and he did, and it looks like they let it expire. I
All right.
was
Well, let's talk to Alex because I have an unlimited. My Zoom is unlimited.
You can't be unlimited. They don't have such a license anymore.
I don't
It's
have the little limit.
yeah, it's either 100 or 200.
Oh, then it must be 200. I mean, I have
Yeah,
the maximum that you can have because I use a professional.
we'll figure it out offline. I'll send something off to Alex and Jefferson after
Okay. All
this.
right. So we'll do Elijah, Bob, and then Diane.
I've never, in any of these types of formats, I've never seen more than like 150 participants. But there have been some where, like, for example, Jeff brought Luna in and you couldn't see the number of participants. I don't know how.
You know,
That was because that was a webinar, Chad,
That was
versus
right.
being.
Yeah.
But
Oh,
we
okay.
but we ran into this exact problem. If you look at participants now, it's sitting exactly at 100. So that gives you a clue that there are people right now who are a little, miffed at
Right.
not being able to get in. When we
Right.
ran into this last time, it was remedied before the next session by either Alex or Jefferson making the purchase. And it appears that when they renewed or whatever, they didn't renew it to the 200.
All right, let's do some, Bob. Let's do some ground truthing, and if worse comes to worse, I'll make a donation to make sure that we get Okay, Elijah, go ahead.
Hi, can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hi, sorry about that. I don't want to scare you guys. I think my finger hit some type of share button. I wasn't paying attention. I was
We
making
just,
a.
a couple weeks ago, we had someone who didn't even know was recording,
And that, by the way, Larry, that happened today. It happened about a half hour ago,
oh,
and I squashed it. So I'll have to work on that too. Sorry
okay.
for all this administrative stuff, everybody.
Go ahead, Elijah.
Yeah, sorry. I was wondering if you guys could ask Luna about some of the extra bullets that were recovered by the HSCA because I think that's important documents that we didn't really get. Like we had Richard Lester give a bullet, Richard Haythorne. One was in '74, the other was in '67. But the one in '67 is so important because they found that that 30 caliber bullet was a Remington Peters, and it was found at the Massey building, located like 8 blocks away. And there was also, I think, what was his name? Barbie, something Barbie. It was in the FBI documents. It's in FBI 62-109060 headquarter file section 146, pages 112 to 117. And I found out about this from Carol Hewitt. She wrote some type of article in the Kennedys and Kings, Silencers, Snipers, something like that in 1995, December 15th. And so I was wondering, well, if that's known and the FBI has and the HSA has such documents, well, why didn't they investigate Elmer Boyd when he was coming out of the TSBD with a whole different rifle? It was like a 1918 Model 8 Remington rifle. He's coming out in William Allen's photos. It's like, what the hell? How did they not put this together? Like, so I was wondering if you could ask them for those
Uh,
documents.
so are these were these bullets in the HSCA inventory?
I believe so, if I
Okay.
remember correctly.
If you could, I just had downloaded something about from the eight because I was asked, there were 10 photographs of the rifle that were taken by the FBI when the rifle arrived in DC, and they're listed in the inventory of the HSCA, but they're not in the collection. And so someone wants to get those scanned. If you
I
could
see.
give me specifics, uh,
Okay.
all right. So send me like an email um,
All right.
with what you're looking for, because at this point in time, we need to get specific. We need to give her specific information so she could go look. They don't have time to do fishing expeditions at this point,
Right.
right?
Okay. Yeah,
Okay.
sure. I'll get the exact document.
Okay,
All right.
great.
Thank you.
But Kurt says HSCA tested most of those in its volume 7.
Yeah, I was reading that this weekend, and there was a soft nose 6.5 millimeter fragment found near the triple underpass. They tested, they determined it wasn't fired from Manico Carcino, and then there was mention of the Massey building. It's in volume 7. You know, I think that probably covers most of what the speaker just mentioned. So,
Well, that's a funny statement because when they fired the rifle in 78, the bullets did not match the 64 bullets.
yeah.
And they attributed that to rust and repeated firings of the rifle, which were less than 100.
Yeah.
So
I think the Massey building, they determined it wasn't Manico Carcino. It sounds like they were just looking for Manico Carcino matches because the
right,
soft nose they found
right.
didn't match. It's
But the weird thing that the rifle, when they fired in 78, didn't even match the bullets that they said matched the rifle in 68. I mean 64. So who
yeah,
knows how good those. But all right, but that's
yeah, they talk about the iron sights, how it'd be easier for
yeah.
Oswald to have used the iron sights. It's probably more detailed than I expected. I was reading through it. It's pretty interesting. And
Yeah.
they had
Elijah, take a look at volume 7 to see
yeah.
whether there's anything in there that answers your question. And if it doesn't, then send me the information and then I'll run it over to her.
All right, I'll send it to you. I just find it unbelievably coincidental that it was a Remington Model 8 rifle recovered from the TSBD Elmer Boyd's having in his hand, walking away in the Allen photo, and there's this Remington specific caliber bullet there that was also found. So I don't know.
And who was Elmer Boyd again?
He was a detective under I think Dallas police.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Because I know that some people think that whether something was up on the criminal courthouse building.
I've heard that. I haven't done that area of research really.
But
What I looked through a ton of photos and I was like, wait a minute, this is not any rifle that I know. So then I did a deep dive on it. and it's a model. It's a 1916 Model 8 Remington. It's in the William Allen photos. You can see it. Elmer Boyd's just carrying a rifle, different rifle outside the TSBD. It's like, okay, there it is. And yeah, I'll send all that info to you if you need. I'll look through volume 7 as well. I'll send an email.
Bob Reed.
Hi, everybody. Two quick comments and then an answer to your call for suggestions, Larry. First of all, Bob and Dave, I am very jealous, like a lot of us probably are, that you guys got to hang out with Cyril Wecht and spend quality time with him, because that must have been absolutely incredible.
What you don't want to do is be with Cyril in a car. He was notorious for being an impatient passenger.
I used to have to pick him up from the airport.
Oh my God.
And then he would drive in and I would like be white knuckled all the way in.
Yes, security was very impatient behind the wheel. Anyway,
it was not much better in a hotel room either, by the
way. That's wonderful. All right. Secondly, I'm joining you from my home in Toronto, Canada, and it is September 11th, and I am wearing my O'Hara's Pub golf shirt, which was in the shadow of Ground Zero and still is on Cedar Street. So if you ever get to Manhattan, go in there and have a pint and ask them to flip through the scrapbook.
Wait, do they sell those? Do they sell those shirts there?
Well, they did. This is well, this is a large, and I've been an extra large for a long time. So this goes back a while, but I'm sure they will have.
Well, we thank you for honoring 9/11 by putting you're out of the shirt that no longer fits you. That you put it on.
we remember up here in Canada very well, very, very well. And now here's my suggestion, Larry. You were asking for tangible things that Representative Luna could look at, and I put this into the chat. Jeff Morley and his whistleblower identified a trove of stuff at that CIA field office was it New Jersey? I don't think it was Virginia, but it was somewhere northeast. That Jeff did a big thing on probably about a year ago.
It was in Herndon, Virginia.
Virginia, okay.
Yeah, that whistleblower, in fact, only specified as an actual site in Herndon, Virginia, which I went out and took pictures of, but also saw something somewhere else in Virginia, and I don't think we ever got that pinpointed. There's supposedly a CIA repository in Warrenton, Virginia, as well, which is not that far away. It's also in Northern Virginia, but further west. And I think in that case, and I don't want to speak totally for Jeff, but unless that person is prepared to come forward, there's not much we can do, because they're not going to go looking for something without that person's more precise instructions. And maybe they're on it and we don't know about it. I mean, there are things they do behind the scenes, but that's as far as I know so far. So I think that would be ideally, that would be a great thing. But I've heard nothing that they found anything there. It could have been moved. It could have been destroyed as well.
And we have not. I guess he hasn't got a satisfactory answer as to whether he's eligible for whistleblower protection, right?
That's another thing. Yeah, I think he wants some concrete guarantees. But obviously, the people who testified on Tuesday to the in the UAP thing, they had all gotten some kind of guarantee from Congress. But one guy said there were a few questions that he wouldn't answer, and said he kept saying that's something that I'd have to tell you in the skiff or in skiff.
Right. But they got immunity from prosecution, but yeah, I mean, still, if it's classified, you can't testify in public.
Right.
You'd have to go in the skiff to right, because then you'd be theoretically be violating a.
Sam here says it's Reston, and Reston's another place in Northern Virginia. So as far as I know, all these places are in Northern Virginia.
So next time you speak to Jeff, why don't you find out the status? Because maybe we can. I mean, I don't know. I guess you guys don't like Zaid, but maybe there's another lawyer we could, talk to about maybe trying to get this guy whistleblower protection.
Yeah.
Now, I think the issue, he was not an attorney. I mean, he wasn't an employee. Was that?
He was a contractor.
He was a
He was
contractor.
a CIA contractor, yeah.
So that's interesting. They'll use a contractor as an employee for purposes of national security, saying that the term employee has many different meanings
Yeah.
in the government.
Yeah.
So is that it, Bob?
Yeah,
Where are
Bob
you
said
in, where are
thanks.
you in Canada?
I'm in Toronto.
Oh, okay. So you're in first place right now.
Yes, we are.
Yes, yes.
September baseball, baby. We love
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, yeah.
Bichette's
I'm
out for a week, or is he longer?
10 days as of the injury, so about a week, maybe
Okay.
a little more now. So yeah,
Because
we'll see.
They failed to pick up any games on the Yanks this week. The Yanks lost 2 games and they lost 2 games.
Anyway,
So
we have some people with their hands up.
yes, Diane, and then Harry.
Okay, I have a question. A month ago, we heard an interview of the Frenchman who's writing a book, and he said that his book was going to come out in September. So I wanted to know if his book comes out or when that's coming out. Do you know what I'm talking about? That Jeff
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
his name is Bernard Legrel or
Yes.
Degrelle. It's
Yeah.
Either Degrelle or Legrel. Anyway, I think there's a link in that article which had about de Gaulle and the coup d'etat remark. I think there's a
Okay.
link to Amazon in there, if I'm
Oh,
not.
so it's out.
Well, it's not there may be an Amazon page and it might not be out because very often there will be an Amazon page and there's an opportunity to pre-order or it
Right.
says what the release date is and it's in the future.
Yeah.
Okay, so it should
I
be.
don't you'd have to check that link, I think.
Okay, and then I also have a question because I'm interested in the Eugene Dinkin story, and I'm wondering if with all these releases, if there's any more information. Like, how would I search that? Would I just go on Mary Farrell and look up his name and hope I find a document?
Yeah, I mean,
So
yeah.
so the easiest thing to do for the most recent documents, everything that the government released this year is now on Mary Farrell. And
Mm-hmm.
Mary Farrell has a much better scanning search tool than NARA. So you can go on the Mary Farrell page for the documents and plug in his name and see if anything comes up.
Okay. Okay.
What Dinkins is interesting. Reference in Mad Men?
Hmm.
I didn't know that. Wow. Okay.
The don't okay, one thing for the LBJ pre-knowledge possibility is that the Secret Service clearly did a horrible job that day. And I mean, it's possible he encouraged that activity because all of those men were rewarded at the end instead of fired. They should have all been fired.
Yeah.
And the Secret Service dove on LBJ and then
Was that Rufus Youngblood or something that
Yeah, Rufus Youngblood. Well, I mean, I would say that Clint Hill, despite his strange insistence that on the single bullet and everything, he probably didn't deserve to be fired. I mean, he did actually run, and I think he might have gotten run over if he hadn't been a bit more lucky.
Yes,
But
yes.
the rest of them should have been fired for
He
sure.
stumbled, and had he not stumbled, I mean, if he was
Yeah.
one step away from getting run over.
Pretty much, yeah. And he also almost fell off the car because it swerved around so fast, and he was just hanging on for dear life, apparently.
And he did say in an early interview that she was reaching for some skull material.
Some skull material. Not only that, but his description of the head wound when he was looking down on the whole ride is exactly the same as the description that Robert McClellan gave. I mean, and he saw it, and it's in his Warren testimony. It's identical. I mean, that is corroborated testimony. It's corroborated evidence that there was a massive blowout in the back of his head, and it wasn't just some mistake that the doctors made or something. I mean,
Yeah, no,
I think Kemp Clark's testimony is even stronger maybe, but he never gave an interview after that. Somebody
no,
must have.
and he that's cognitive dissonance. He sees the rear of the head blown out, but he just can't accept a shot from the front.
Right.
Anyway, Harry,
Yeah, what's up, everybody? Yeah,
you're not working out on your machine
Larry-
tonight, huh?
What's that?
Not working out on your machine tonight? Weren't you working out on your machine last week when you were talking? No? Okay.
No,
Okay, I'm
he's
sorry.
frozen. His image is frozen.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on, but in any case, Larry, why are you lukewarm on Garrison now? Can you expand on that?
Because I think that he was protecting Marcello. I think he directed the investigation away from Marcello.
I
Well,
see.
that's yeah. I mean, I'll just say this. I mean, I don't think. I think when Garrison started off, I think he was definitely in earnest. I think when David Ferry, who by the way worked for Marcello,
Right,
was when he died, and by the way, it was the same day that Eladio del Valle
right,
died, and he
right,
also worked for Marcello.
right.
That might have been a signal to Garrison that, nobody's immune, and I think Marcello killed some people who probably knew more than they should or that he wanted them to, and that was it. Garrison, they used to eat in the same place. I can't remember the name of the restaurant. I want to say Antoine's,
He,
but
but
I'm not.
he also
But
he was going to Las Vegas and getting, credit and free hotel and by one of Marcello's guys. So I just don't know if when you hear David Ferry, there's no way he didn't know that David Ferry was working for Marcello in November. And so I just what look, I'll give him a mulligan if he got scared off, that's one thing, but I just think that he did not really take a hard look at Marcello, and I think he went a different direction. Um, but anyway, that's just me. I mean, I've gradually over the last 6 months become very, as I've read more and more about the Garrison investigation and what I know about Marcello. I just don't think that was a. If you're an investigator, if you're conducting an investigation in Orleans, um, how you don't investigate Marcello. And um, I think it's very hard to investigate Marcello when you're in New Orleans. And he did not prosecute a lot of crimes that could have been prosecuted. I think he was running light on Marcello. So that's just me. It doesn't mean it's right. It's just my opinion. So anyway, uh, anything else, Harry?
No, that's about it. Thanks for that explication there.
Now, I learned today that involving the movie called November 1963 that they finished filming in Winnipeg. Um, Now, unfortunately, it looks like this movie's going to be focused on Giacana because it's Giacana's offspring, and uh, I think they're trying to cash in, it sounds like. But I'm not familiar with the film business. Leo, you're on. Do you want to share what your thoughts are about where they are in terms of the fact that they finished the filming? Does that mean this movie's really going forward? Leo's on if you feel like talking. Um, if you can't do it, then I just don't know how, once you finish the shooting, whether I guess you have to go into post-production and who knows if they have, oh, he needs to jump on another computer. Okay. So, Harry, did you have your hand up again? Oh, okay, okay. Um, so I just wanted to share that there was an article, a couple articles about the movie, and they were filming it in Winnipeg. John Travolta's in it, and so they finished the filming, and I just don't know how real this is. Um, what is this, Mark? I took a picture of such a position. Oh, okay. Um, I don't know if the production, if they have funding, financing to go on, and I don't know how this works in the film business, but they did stop. They did finish their shooting. Um, so, Chad, are you working any interesting articles? I heard you guys are on a tight publishing schedule now, huh?
yeah, no, we've really got a lot coming out in the next in the next few days, as far as I can remember the schedule. But there's going to be some really interesting stuff. So stay tuned is all I can say. As I say, I've got a sequel to the piece that I co-authored with Bill Simpich a couple of weeks ago about Oswald's last call, and this sort of expands on that. And I've got another thing in the works, which I guess you'll just have to wait and see. But yeah, there's always stuff. I mean, it's not like we've really kind of lost momentum amazingly, even with, but anybody, again, I mean, the appeal is still open who wants to submit proposals or actual drafts. I'll put my email address in here again. No guarantee, of course, of publication, but if there's
But
something
definitely,
that really
please,
interests.
you guys come up with a lot of great ideas, um, and you ask us for questions. Um, if you have interesting things you want to write about, go ahead and don't be worried about your writing ability. Chad will always edit it to make it publishable.
I can
Yeah.
talk now, Larry.
Yeah, hey Leo, how you doing?
Pretty good. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. So
All right.
give us a
Well,
download on the movie.
okay, my take on this. I have a friend, producer, director friend in Vancouver who was very familiar with what's going on in the as far as the movie world, and production is mostly West Coast, very little in Winnipeg. I guess they chose Winnipeg because they got some good deals and tax rebates and that kind of stuff. But the history of that project is shaky. There was David Mamet was involved, and then Barry Levinson, and then there's a lawsuit. Anytime you have a project with a lawsuit, financiers generally stay away. But they did manage to scrape together some sort of a budget to actually start principal photography, which they did in July. They were in pre-production already in May. So they did shoot the thing. I mean, it's in the can. It's in post-production now. And now, of course, the next big step is finishing the movie, and that can be very expensive. I sent you a couple of clips behind the scenes. There's no Dealey Plaza. It's just the entrance of the school box depository, and the rest is blue screen. So they have a lot of visual effects to do.
That's expensive, right? That kind of
Yeah,
stuff.
it's expensive and time consuming and so forth. And they don't have distribution. There's no distribution deal. That I know for sure.
Ah, so is that unusual to be this
Nah,
far?
well, for independent films, it's not unusual. Usually they go to a film market like Cannes has a market, or Milan, or LA, and try to sell the film that way,
Oh.
try to get distribution.
So the odds are that this movie's not coming out before the end of the year.
Oh, no, 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 no way. No way. No.
Okay.
If at all, sometime next year. And if they don't get theatrical, which is very possible, it'll end up with some streamer, who knows? They make a deal, and streamers don't pay very much for independent films. But of course, they have Travolta. Depending how much of the role Travolta has as Roselli, I cannot imagine he's a main cast member spending 4 weeks in Winnipeg. They don't have that kind of money. It's usually a few days for a big amount of money to put his name on the poster.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's
So stay tuned, huh?
yeah. Okay. Well,
Okay.
what did I haven't taken I saw the articles. I haven't looked at the clips yet. Did the clips look good?
No, they look kind of really poor. I mean, it's like the crowd is like 15 people, and then they're going to do the rest in the computer. No, it looks really down and dirty. Yeah.
Okay.
And they chose Winnipeg because I guess some of the residential neighborhoods could stand for Chicago.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
this Colosi guy, he does have a background in film. He's done films. He's written some stuff. I mean, he's not a newbie in the business, and he is somehow related to Giancana. But it's
Right.
not based on the Double Cross book, right? There's another book?
I don't
Is
know that there were supposedly two movies going on, and either one of them, Giancana really was not a major player. If the mafia was involved, I mean, Giancana was too busy with Phyllis. What's her name? I mean, he was
Phyllis Schlafly. Yes.
the singer,
Phyllis Schlafly.
McGuire.
Oh,
McGuire.
McGuire. Oh,
Yeah,
McGuire.
yeah,
Sorry. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
McGuire. Kurt's always there for the
Right. For the wacky
Filling in the
facts.
gaps.
Schlafly was the politician, right? Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah. So, and he was really, I just don't think Chicago, the only thing I think Chicago, even by that time, Ruby was already working with Marcello. I mean, Marcello had Texas through the Campeses.
Right. But why was he murdered gangland style before he was supposed to testify?
Well, there's some competing theories. One, of course, is that he was going to testify and they didn't want, stuff coming out about
Yeah.
the plots.
Right.
The mafia, the CIA plots. Another one is it could have just been Giaccani was never actually the chief in Chicago. Accordio,
Oh,
he was acting chief, but he was very erratic, and he used to. So Marcello was like the guy that kept under the radar. Giaccani
right.
was out there dating. He was a very very provocative person, and they constantly were getting pissed off at him for his lifestyle. And
Right.
he talked a lot.
Yeah, and he was close to Sinatra. He came down here to the desert and play golf with him all the time. Yeah.
Yes, and there's some really interesting in the recent tapes that came out. You can see Giancana complaining, um, and that Sinatra isn't coming through the way
Hmm.
they thought Sinatra would, and they're saying Giancana saying Sinatra's not worth it. He actually, for a moment, thought about putting a hit on Sinatra, but then
Wow.
he said that he was with Phyllis one night listening to this Sinatra and said, "How can I put an end to this voice?" So he called it off. But he was really pissed at Sinatra, and he was also he basically had a big role in 1960 in convincing the outfit to put money behind behind John Kennedy's
Right.
and then he got Humphreys, Curly Humphreys was opposed to it because he had experience in the past with the Kennedys and with Joe Kennedy, and he felt that he called them all kinds of names.
Yeah.
But Giancana said this would be good for us, and so Giancana was tainted because it went south very quickly.
Right.
He's actually there's a tape that I just read last week, a transcript where he's saying, "I can't believe no one thought it's going to be this bad."
Hmm.
And the idea that they really thought that the boys were going to listen to their dad. RFK had a big fight with Joe Kennedy in '57 around Christmas time when he was appointed to be the counsel to the McClellan committee.
Hmm.
When he told Joe Kennedy that he was going to press the mob, uh, Joe Kennedy was really angry, and Jean Kennedy said that this was the worst fight she ever saw between them, and this was a
Oh, wow.
chance for young Bobby to become the guy in the
Right.
family.
Right.
So anyway, so Giancana had a flamboyant lifestyle. So one thinking is that they were just trying to someone he knew very closely because it didn't look like there was a break-in, and he was making dinner.
Right. In his
So
basement. Yeah.
yeah, so they think that it was probably someone he knew. Number one, and number two, it was did a quarter. I'm saying his name wrong, Chad. Uh, what's his name? Accordia?
A Carda, I think,
Accarda,
or
yeah.
Tony
Cardo.
Oh,
Arcady.
Cardo. He was a mobster, big
Yeah.
mobster.
Yeah, so
Cardo.
he
Yeah.
was the real head of
Yeah.
of the outfit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he was nicknamed Big Tuna or something.
Yes,
Yes.
yes. So
Tony Arcardo.
yes,
Yes.
right. So he may have ordered the hit on Giancana to keep him quiet, whether it was because of internal politics or whether it was because of you know, I mean, the police went away right before the murder.
Hmm.
Police, the Guardian, he was supposed to be there the next day. He was going to go to DC. So,
Right.
and all the shots were around his mouth.
Right.
So you're never going to know the answer, but those are the two competing theories.
Okay. All right.
But Marcello is the one that I think had more of a motive, and opportunity. I don't think Giancana could not have done this without the approval of the commission.
Mhm.
Marcello was the one person that could act on his own. That
Right.
he could sometimes he would ask, he would let them know what he was going to do, right? And Marcello and Traficante were the only one where they had the FBI had no coverage on them, no wiretap coverage at that time. Giancana, on the other hand, I mean, they were all over him.
Yeah, what about the Tampa mobster?
Yeah, that's Traficante.
Trafficante, who probably had Roselli killed, right?
Yes, I think Traficante killed Roselli. Yeah, I think that's fair. You know, and Traficante was no. What was Marcelo had the one Chad the sign that said two people what something about two people can keep a secret or two people can one can I don't know something. There's a
Yeah,
saying.
two people can keep a secret if one of them's dead or something.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. So yeah, I'm pretty sure that Traficante killed Roselli. That's sort of the
Yeah.
conventional wisdom. Um, I don't think Marcello would have done it. Now, interestingly, Traficante also had a relationship with Diwali, and Diwali was killed in Miami.
Okay.
So Diwali had a relationship with Ferry, and he also had a relationship with Traficante. So, but
But
Marcello and Traficante were very close. So
do you think Roselli was involved in the assassination, the hit? Did he know about it?
I think he knew about it. Well, you know, it's interesting because he was woken up when the assassination took place, and at least what he said uh, didn't seem like he had foreknowledge. And again, they may have heard things, but part of me thinks that Roselli was passing information back and forth between the guys in Miami and Harvey, and yeah, he was like the
Yeah, he was very close to Harvey, right?
yeah yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
But Roselli tried. So Roselli's the one that went to Jack. Well, Roselli's lawyer is the one that went to Jack Aniston in '67. Roselli was about to go to jail, and Roselli was the first person to spill the beans on the CIA use of the mafia.
Oh yes,
Right?
the Castro hits,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. And so his lawyer Morgan, I think it was,
Yeah.
went to went to he went to Drew Pearson. Drew Pearson, I think, then went to Earl Warren. Then Earl Warren went to the Attorney General, then went to LBJ. And that's when LBJ looks like he first learned about the Castro hits, the plot. And it looks like Roselli was trying to use that information to leverage not going to jail.
Hmm.
And so it's unclear how much he was saying was true and how much he was saying was to try to get effect in terms of his role, you know. But he was an interesting guy. Mark, you got your hand up.
Yeah, Larry, a comment and a question. The comment is that I realize you have a lot of information regarding Garrison, but you must remember also, as far as I know, David Ferry and Marcello were in court at the very moment that JFK was being assassinated, and yet Garrison still got, very involved and was going after David Ferry. So
Right.
keep that in mind.
No, I know that. That my question is, he didn't take it then. Ferry's so close to Marcello. Why doesn't he indict Marcello or at least call Marcello into an investigate? Like he did with Clay Shaw. He just dropped it.
Yeah, that's true. My question is, I unfortunately missed part of the early part of the discussion tonight, and I'm thrilled that Luna is more or less committing to the Jackie transcripts, and we know that the KGB records are probably forthcoming, and then we've also got hopefully the Harvey travel records. My question is, did I miss that there are other commitments that Luna has made, and also where are the Joanides operational files that never showed up?
She said to me that they're getting Jamwave files, And I didn't get a chance to ask her, what do you mean by Janway? Do you mean Donald Heath? Because after she said that, that's when the message came in that Kirk had been shot. And then she left, she had to leave, excuse herself to go out, into the hallway to get some information. She personally, Kirk was a friend of hers. So it was, so I couldn't get clarity. Then when she came back, we were on something else, and then she kept going in and out to get updates. And so, it, I was that because she was giving me a debriefing, and then she had to leave, and so she never finished her debriefing. And so then I was giving my stuff that we needed to get. So um, um, anyway,
Still sounds like very good
yeah,
news.
you were
Yeah.
were you on when we talked? We're getting Air Force One tapes.
No, I missed that part as well.
Okay,
Yeah.
and I'd like to know where they were. I mean, it's supposed to be complete. Um, she said complete tapes. Sometimes I don't know. She knows a lot about number of things. I don't know how much she knows about each particular topic. I mean, for someone who knew nothing 6 months ago, Chad, you'd agree, right? She's really gotten herself into it.
Yeah, I would say she's very sharp. I mean, she's bright and a quick study. I mean, I've been pretty impressed, you know.
Who was this? My dad knew him. Oh yeah, Deborah Jaffe says she knew Jack Anderson. Did he ever? Oh, let's get Ben Cooper on. And maybe that'll be the last person because it's 9:30. Go ahead, Ben.
Yeah, given the current geopolitical situation, and maybe there's something I should have read on this, how are we getting the KGB file? I mean, it would seem to me that our favorite KGB officer probably isn't very interested in helping anybody on this side of the Atlantic.
Well, apparently she went to the embassy and the Russian embassy, and they've agreed. Look, she's pretty tenacious. I don't know what she said.
Yeah.
And as
I
of
mean,
yesterday, she said that we're still getting them. So
I
obviously,
don't, yeah, my personal view is I don't think there's any liability for the Russian government in turning this stuff over. They said they turned it over during 1964, I think, to the CIA, their analysis, and it disappeared. So all these files they said they turned over was based on their own investigation. And I think that's going to be part of it. They're going to put it online on the site of the Russian archives, it's truncated Ross Archive. I don't, I doubt that they're going to release every single thing that they have that
what
they've
is it?
made.
What is it? What did you say, Chad? Where are they going to post it?
There's the Russian, whatever the full name is, State Archives, whatever, has a truncated name in Russian, Ross Archive, and I don't know. They're supposed to be uploaded, so they're supposed to be available online, I think. Um, and there'll be a lot of them. I'm still skeptical that we're ever going to see this mythical report from Mexico City that these KGB officers said they sent on Saturday, September 28th, 1963. So it was the Saturday morning when they said Oswald came into their embassy and started waving a gun around. I mean, they might fabricate something in that regard, but I don't know. A guy published a book in his own capacity. It was a retired KGB, and he published it here in English, so he had a book deal. And Gerald Posner latched onto it immediately as being gospel truth. I never thought it was credible in that regard. But as far as trusting them, I just don't think there's any. I mean, in a way, they have more to gain by giving us what they have already said repeatedly is there, which is their whole surveillance of Oswald, their analysis of him, what they thought of him, whether he, could have made the shots because he was apparently such a poor shot. He was part of a hunting club. Um, that'll run up against the American establishment still, which still holds that Warren Report lone gunman. And so the Russians have an incentive to undermine it. And since they've already said they didn't think he did it, why wouldn't they hand it over? So, I mean, I'm of two minds about it. I mean, I don't think Putin, first of all, personally really cares. I mean, that is not something on his radar. And it's only it's been handed off to one of the other Siloviki, his head of the Foreign Intelligence Service. Somehow that guy's in charge of it. I mean, I don't trust him either, but I just don't see that they have an incentive to um, sort of really pull a fast one, except to the extent that they might withhold things. They might do
But so you're saying that so they're not going to transmit the stuff to, say, our State Department or our archives. They're going to put it up on.
I heard they were going to post it online. That's what I remember. But I mean, unless things have changed, I tried to get kind of some kind of advance access. It was hopeless. I mean, they didn't even. I mean, that's the thing of dealing with Russian officialdom. Once the order comes out, that's it. You're not going to get. I mean, I could make. If I went over to Moscow under normal conditions, if there wasn't this war going on, which America's blamed for. I might be able to, cultivate some personal relationship, get somebody to leak me something. But under the current circumstances, I don't even think it's a good idea. The people, Westerners I know, who I've talked to, have been in Moscow since the war went full scale in 2022. They say it's just really not comfortable, and people are disparaging of Westerners, and but as far as this goes, I don't know. We'll wait and see. I mean, I heard it wasn't just Moscow and Minsk that had records, but also Riga, which is the capital of Latvia. And that leads me to believe that Oswald, during the time he lived there, may have gone up to the Baltic coast, because that's the nearest beach, while he was living there, and we just never knew about it. I mean, it's not particularly important. It's just a neighboring republic.
And look, I think there is a propaganda value to the Russians that if it turns out that their view is that Oswald could not have possibly pulled this off, right?
Right.
That that just shows that the American president was killed by a conspiracy within
Right.
his government, and it's propaganda value.
Right. It does have propaganda value, and that's why a lot of the sort of CIA line has been that any questioning is KGB propaganda. Mark Lane was working with the KGB, Jim Garrison was working with the KGB, and that's ridiculous. It's preposterous. I don't think Mark Lane was working with the KGB at all. But that's been a steady drumbeat. And so the Russians will, I mean, they'll say what they have, the KGB's own analysis, which does not, by the way, apparently conform to the opinion of the guy that wrote that book, Passport to Assassination, that came out in 1993. So that guy made his own opinion about not only did Oswald act alone, well, how the hell would he know that, but also he did it because JFK reminded him of one of his wife's ex-lovers. I mean, that is so eccentric and silly, in my opinion. But that got published into a book by Birch Lane Press. It never went into paperback. It's actually kind of a cool read in parts. It's kind of an interesting read. It's the life of this guy and working as a KGB guy in Mexico and attempts to recruit him by the CIA and stuff. It's interesting, but as far as Oswald goes, no, it just
Let me
doesn't.
ask you, do you think that there's a cover the time period when I think it was when it was covers the time period when Oswald was in Russia. It's not the interactions that Oswald had with Mexico City embassy alleged connections with Mexico City that anything that was reported back to Moscow.
Well, no, I mean the main attraction of the book.
Now I'm
I
talking
think
about
it, I think
what's
it
going to be released. The stuff that's going to be released.
Oh, the stuff that's going to be released, yeah, it's going to be KGB surveillance of Oswald
Okay.
inside the Soviet Union, which is 2.5 years of stuff. That's quite a lot. I mean, 2.5 years of surveillance reports on this American, that's going to fill in a big chunk of this guy's of Oswald's life. It's like, a tenth of his life, of his whole life, because he didn't live very long. And it was when he was kind of the most active and probably having the most fun, because he probably thought it was really cool to hang out in the Soviet Union. And we're going to see that. But the only thing generated outside the Soviet Union, probably unless, the embassy in Washington was sending stuff back to Moscow Center
Right.
on the
Right.
basis of Oswald's letters to the Soviet embassy in Washington. But that report from Mexico City, I really want to see that. If they actually did send a report, I really am interested to see it because I published an article about this discrepancy that was never resolved. Three guys said he came on Saturday, and one guy was also working at the same time said he came on a Sunday, and he was the only guy to deal with him. Now, I mean, and nobody ever confronted either one of them and said, nobody ever did that. And one, they can't both be right, or maybe they could be right. Maybe there were visits on both days. But in any case, I'd really like to see that report. So that's something I'm looking forward to. But also, I mean, the stuff in the Soviet Union, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting. It's going to evaluate him psychologically. It's going to, it's going to be interesting.
Um, what about the materials that Tunheim claimed he saw in Belarus? Do we know
Those are the ones. Those are the
those
ones.
are the same ones?
Yeah, he said it's a 5 foot tall stack of documents that they almost got released, and at the last minute, I think he said the Belarusian government wanted $100,000.
Ah,
I didn't think the ARB had that kind of money to throw around. So in the 90s, so it fell through. But remember that those are probably the originals in Minsk, and there are copies, they would be carbon copies, probably not Xerox, in Moscow, because there's no way that the KGB office in Minsk during the Soviet period would have things that Moscow Center, Lubyanka did not have. So,
hmm,
so Moscow has copies of everything, and
okay.
early first generation copies. So they'll probably be sent from. I mean, they'll be uploaded anyway, be digitized.
Yeah.
Chad,
I
this
There was a
website, is it going to be in English or Russian?
It'll be in Russian, yeah. It'll be in Russian.
but Chad is committed to translating every document for us.
Yeah, I'm there. I know one other person in our community, Mark Buidosh. He's a Russian speaker too. So
Yes.
so I mean, hopefully we can. I mean, it's a lot of stuff to translate, and of course, it's not just a question of copying and pasting into Google Translate. It's online. It's a digitized thing. It's probably a PDF or
But
something.
like, do they have like, so they're going to have like maybe KGB terminology that you would not normally know as a Russian speaker, right?
Oh, well, you can work it out.
Oh,
They
okay.
do a lot of truncations and slang where they'll take, two or three words and they sort of put them together and make one word out of it. They do quite a lot of that.
Ah,
But the context and everything, it should be fine. We'll be able to figure out what they're talking about. There might be some coded stuff. And by the way, I've always suspected that Marina was sort of, she was very young, but I think she probably agreed to be on the hook to the KGB as a condition of being allowed to leave so easily. But I think after the assassination, they probably just said, "Forget it," no, no, the deal's off. We don't want to, And so she was kind of left dangling.
there was a funny memo, I think from '94, when the ARB asked the State Department to try to help get the records from Russia. And I guess the response back from the Soviets, the Russians, was that um, we'll give you our records when you give your records to the American people first.
Right. Right. I mean, and that's kind of, I think that's another thing is that they've seen, by now the news of the declassification has come out. Trump's executive order was very dramatic. Luna's task force, things have come out. They're seeing it. They're seeing things published. Now she's going to meet the Russian ambassador, et cetera, et cetera. So it's almost like kind of we're making good, and they're
Yeah,
probably going to be more prepared to. I mean, nothing rules out that they were using Oswald for something.
yeah.
I don't know what it was. I don't think it was to assassinate JFK, but they may have tried, because it's a Dick Russell thing. Was there a double agent operation? Oswald got in over his head. He thought he was really cool or whatever. I mean, they probably would not admit to that. I mean, I don't know. I doubt it. Um,
Um, Oh, I forgot to mention, in our lawsuit, we're filing a motion for summary judgment. Well, the government has filed a motion for summary judgment. We're submitting our opposition to that on Monday, and then we're submitting a cross motion for summary judgment, using Trump's executive order as the basis.
Oh, good. Well, thank God you have an executive order to use as a basis because you did not have that before. So,
No, there's some interesting legal questions about the how that executive order should be construed with respect to NARA, but we'll flesh that out.
NARA is a federal agency.
Yes, and the executive order requires all records within the possession of the federal government to be released in
Right.
complete full release, right? So,
Yeah. I'd be very surprised if a judge doesn't say this is a pretty expansive executive order. So
well,
we'll
I,
see.
I can't say what I think about the judge in our case, but if there's a judge that this might think otherwise, it might be our judge.
Are you talking about Richard Seaborg or somebody in the
Yes,
appeals court?
yes,
Yeah,
yes.
Richard Seaborg. Yeah, he was not very yeah, I didn't think he was very imaginative in the first go round. But then again, neither were those circuit judges
Um,
in the interlocutory appeal. I didn't think they
yeah.
were.
Well, and this would finalize the case, and then we can then go formal appeal.
Right.
Appeal the case then if we want to. Um, so wow, we have 68 people still.
He'll appeal. I have to go actually.
Yeah, no, it's 9:45. So anyway, I'll be communicating with Luna's office either tomorrow or Monday. So next Thursday we'll have some more updates. We'll obviously have the briefs filed. So there'll be some news next week. And uh, Ben, is that your hand up? You have the last question you want to ask?
Yeah, quick housekeeping question. I don't know if you guys know or have to talk to Jeff, but for like the last couple of months, I haven't been getting notices of these meetings or opportunities to get a link and so on and so forth. This, in fact, tonight's was the first time in a long time. Do you have any idea why or
Well,
what?
I would
Maybe,
just add,
maybe it's me.
Ben, the link that you have works week after week after week. You need to know nothing more. And it's always 8 o'clock Eastern time on Thursdays. So that, I mean, sometimes notices do come out, sometimes they do not.
I mean,
But
I made sure there was a notice tonight because I wanted to make sure that our loyal listeners heard the results of my meeting with Luna yesterday. But it's a standing Thursday night call. And um, so
and
the other thing,
the URL is the same, so that's key. You don't have to get any additional information to connect. It's the
yeah,
same as
just save this and then hook, connect next week. Now, I want to talk to Chad. I want to talk. Maybe we can talk to Jeff about all these recorded, you know, sessions. Maybe we could put them up on. If he doesn't want to put them up on JFK Facts, I can put them up on my YouTube page or something. We have a lot of good discussions here.
Yeah, I don't know anything about that. It's totally you know, above my pay scale or whatever.
Yeah.
It's yeah, I
I,
mean, I would just it used to be there was somebody who was in charge of that, and I just don't think they are anymore.
Oh, okay.
I have observed, Larry, in the last week or so that occasionally one of these sessions get posts in the Substack post stream,
Oh,
but
really?
inconsistent.
Yeah, and so there's been a couple that are really have been. We've had some really good discussions, and I'd like to be able to have the last couple months available for people that weren't able over the summer to they're away or something, whatever.
Right,
Um,
right.
so all right, Anna, this has got to be it. This is the last one.
Hi there. Yeah, I was late getting in. Can you summarize quickly your conversation with Luna from yesterday? And I wasn't the only one late getting in, so for the rest of us also.
So the Manchester tapes, the transcripts of the Manchester interviews with Jackie and RFK. She's going to get them. She's going to get the Air Force One tapes, the Harvey's travel tapes. What else, Chad, did I forget? I'm just
So the Sheridan, the
Sheridan
Manchester interview.
Files. NBC claims they don't have the originals of the Wegman Darnell film. She's going to pursue that.
What are the Manchester tapes? What is that?
That's the interviews that William Manchester did for his book Death of a President. He had interviews with Jackie and Robert Kennedy,
Okay,
and
thanks.
those have been sequestered till 2067. And there's been lots of rumors about what was said, and so um, and the ARP tried to get them, and and Caroline declined to consent, and so I guess Luna persuaded her to at least release transcripts.
Right.
How
So
long
we
it's
don't,
going to
we
take, I
won't
don't
get
know.
the actual recordings. Did you also say, by the way, Larry, did you say that the JM Wave inquiry documents were on the list or
She
not?
said that Jamwave station files are coming, but she left the room and I couldn't clarify I don't know if that's the Donald Heath memos. I don't know what she means by that.
Right.
I will try to clarify with Bill, what the scope is, because I'm sure Bill's the one that's actually probably, heading this. And when she needs to get involved, she probably gets involved. I'm sure Bill is calling on her behalf a lot. He's chief of staff.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Thank everyone for hanging in this long. Bob, thank you for your help.
I will take care of the other matter with getting deep. If I may, Anna, if you still can turn on your mic, were you just late to connecting, or did you try to connect and get rejected?
Both. I was late from work and I tried to connect and I got rejected several times and I waited about 10 minutes and then I finally got in.
Okay, that piece of information is very useful.
Yes.
Yeah, we have something. It got capped at 100 participants again for some reason. So we'll get that remedied before next week. Thanks for the feedback.
Great, wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah. We now most times, when we don't have an announcement, we have like a core of like 40 people that call in. But I thought we had more than 100 because I figured we were going to have a big number tonight because the announcement went out and anyway. All right, everybody. Chad's hungry.
No, I'm not hungry. I've got to do something. So.
Okay,
Good night,
guys.
guys. This was great.
Thanks.
Good night,
Oh,
everyone.
Dave, yeah, send me an email so we can
Will do.
Okay.
Nice to see
See
you.
everybody.